Hey guys, and welcome to Style with Chica. In this tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how to make a cargo short. For this cargo short, I am making use of 1.5 yard of fabric. I'm also making use of these pieces I have here. I have 4 of them. I have my zipper and also my buttons. So let's get started. Firstly, I am drawing a straight line across this point, and this line is going to be my starting line. After I draw my starting line, I am making a mark of 1 inch, and I'm making a mark of 1 inch at the border edge of this material, and I'll be marking this all the way down. After I mark this all the way down, I am going to take my measurements this way. The first measurement I'll be taking is my hip measurement. So for my hip measurement, I'm going to be minusing 1.5 inches for my waistband before taking my hip measurement. So since my waistband is 1.5 inch, I'm going to place 1.5 inch on my starting line, which is here, and I'm just going to mark my hip line. We're marking my hip line at 9 inches. And then I'll mark my crotch line, which I'm going to be marking at 11.5 inches. Next, I'm going to mark the full length of this short, and for the full length of this short, I am making use of 17 inches. I'll go ahead and extend these lines. Next thing I'm going to do is to add an extra sewing allowance to this piece, and the sewing allowance I'm adding is just 1 inch. Next, I'm just going to mark out my hip measurement divided by 4 on my hip line. I'll be marking it from this point this way. So my hip measurement divided by 4, I have 10.25. And then I'm also going to mark this on my crotch line as well as my waistline. Then I'm going to use a straight ruler to connect upward like this. So once I have this, I'm going to take my waist measurement, and I'll be dividing my waist measurement by 4. My waist measurement divided by 4, I have 7.75. I'm going to mark 7.75 this way like this. I'm just going to mark 7.75 here. And once I mark 7.75, I'm going to add my dart. My dart is going to be 1 inch, so I'm going to add 1 inch for my dart this way. Once I add 1 inch for my dart, I'm going to use the curved part of my ruler to connect this to my hip. So once I have these guys, I'm just going to go ahead and take my tie measurement, my round tie measurement, and I'll be dividing it by 2, and I'll be marking that on my crotch line. For my tie measurement, I have 28. I'm going to be marking that divided by 2 on my crotch line. So once I have this, I'm going to connect this to meet this line with a curve. After I've done this, I'm going to come down on my waistline at this point by 1 inch. Once I come down by 1 inch, I'm going to connect all the way to meet my dart here. After I've done this, I'm going to mark out the full length of my shirt. So for the full length of my shirt, it's also my tie measurement that I will be marking here. So I'm just going to go ahead and impute the same 14 inches that I have here on my tie line right here. Then I'm just going to go ahead and connect the way upward like this. So now this is what I have, but I'm going to be having a dart here. So for my dart, I'm going to take my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. My nipple to nipple measurement is 8, and 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. So I'm going to go ahead from this point. I'm going to mark 4 inches inward like this. I'm going to mark 4 inches inward like this. I'm using a different chalk so you can know that this is a dart. So from this point, I'm just going to come down by 4 inches again. Then I'm going to connect the line straight upward to give me my dart. On both sides of the line, I'm going to come out by 1/2 inch just like this. And once I come out by 1/2 inch just like this, I'm going to connect to meet this point. So now this is what I have. So this dart that I added here is the one that I replaced here. So this is what I have for the front pattern of my shirt. I'm going to go ahead and add 1/2 inch of allowance all around my shirt this way for my sewing. Alright guys, so for my back piece, I've gone ahead to fold my material again into two, and this time it's bigger than the one I folded for the front. So you're just going to take your front piece now, and you're using it now to cut out your back piece. So I'm just going to place my front piece right like this. Make sure that you have enough allowance here and at the upper part too. So I'm going to start with the side. For my side, I'm going to be adding an extra allowance of 1.5 inches, just like this. I've already left the mark there. And then after that, I'm just going to add ½ inch of allowance from this point onward here. So from where I have the cutting of my front piece, I'm adding ½ inch of allowance. And then once I add ½ inch of allowance here, I'm going to come to this top part, and then I'm going to mark 1.5 inch inward like this. And from this 1.5 inch now, I'm going to come up by 1 inch. I do hope you understand. So when you come in by 1.5 inch here, you come up by 1 inch. Please just go ahead to watch this point very well so you can actually understand what I did here. So I came out here by 1.5 inch, I came up here by ½ inch, and then in here I put my tape this way, and then I came in by 1.5 inch. I put my mark here, and then I bent my tape this way, and I came up by 1 inch. So first thing I'm going to do is to connect these lines like this. So now I'm just going to try and connect this line to meet this one, because this is my new crotch line for my back. So once I've done this now, from this point that I came up by 1 inch, I'm going to take the measurement that I have all through the front part of my waist. From here to here, I'm going to take the total measurement that I have. And total measurement that I have for my front is 10. So from this point now, I'm going to mark 10 inches this way. So this way I have 10 inches. I'm going to go ahead and leave a mark here at 10 inches. So what I'm going to do now is to connect it back to this point with a slanted line. So the back is going to slant this way to meet my waist line at the front. So this is what I'm going to do, like this. I want to meet my waist line at the front now. I'm just going to connect it now to meet my hip line that I have here at my front. So this is my hip line for my front. I'm going to connect this point to meet my hip line at my front like this. Now this is what this is looking like, and then this one is just going to follow this line as the full length also, and then this one is following this line. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. This is what I have. I'm going to place it, and I'm going to go ahead and
so the upper part where I need 1 inch to elevate the back because of my bun. If you have a bigger bun, just go as much as 1.52 inches, just depending on the size of your bun. Always subscribe to this channel if you're finding this tutorial very helpful, and let's continue.
Alright guys, so to start sewing, just before I join my cargo pockets, I am going to sew on my darts on each and every piece. And after sewing on my darts, I'm going to take one of my front piece and one of my back piece. So this is the way it's meant to be placed. So this is my front pieces that I'm arranging right now. So after taking my dart, this is the way it's going to be placed. And then I'm just going to take one piece of my back, and then I'm going to place it right on top, and then I'll sew on the edge. And on the other piece of my back, I'll take it and then I'll place it right on top, and then I'll sew on the edge. But this sewing is after I have taken my dart. So let's go ahead and do that before working on our cargo pockets. So guys, after joining the sides of my shirt and taking my dart on both sides, this is what I have. So before working on your pockets, you go ahead and iron your seam open and iron every other thing open. I've gone ahead to work on one side of my pocket, and I'll just be showing you what it looks like before we start. So this is one side of my pocket for my cargo shirt. You can see already I've worked on the hem of the shirt and I've worked on the pocket entirely. So I'm going to be showing you how to do this in a few easy steps. This is what it looks like when I open it up. Please pay attention to the details so you understand every piece I'm cutting out and why I'm cutting this out. I have one here. I also have one that is holding on to the buckles, and I have my pocket this way so you can see what it looks like. So let me go ahead and show you how you can work on your own to achieve this result. Alright guys, so now we're gonna head to iron along this line. So now these are the pieces I'm going to be using for my pocket, okay? I'm going to explain what every piece is going to be used for. This piece is the biggest piece of the pocket, and this one is the one that's going to go above it like this. For this one, I'm going to be using it to make that strap, which is going to come this way. While this one, it's going to be attached to this piece, and this is going to be put inside of it. Then I have this one, which I'm going to be using to hem the legs of the trouser. This one is going to be used for the round part of the cargo. So now let's start sewing. So just make sure that you have all these pieces. I'm going to be showing you the measurements and how you can get your measurements for these pieces that I have here. So I'm going to start with this one. So this is my cargo short. So I'm going to be hemming this in. So that's why I went ahead to cut out a length of material that is enough. I haven't cut it out at too much. A length of material that will be enough to hem in the legs of the shirt. I do hope you understand this. So the width of this is 3 inches. Just make sure that you're cutting out to a length that will fit into this point. So I'll go ahead and trim out the excess, and I'll be showing you how to turn this. Just make sure you have this piece ready. You're going to keep this piece aside. Then I'm going to start with this other one. For this one, it's 3 inches and the length is 4 inches. I'm not going to be using the entire length. I just wanted to cut enough for this. So for this one now, I am going to be sewing it on this side, and I'm going to be turning it to the right side. So after sewing on this side, you just want to go ahead now and turn it to the right side. So once you turn this to the right side, go ahead and top stitch the 2 sides down. And after top stitching on it, this is what I have. So just make sure that you have your piece looking like this. So now this one is what's going to be housing this one. So you want to get your 2 pieces, and then you're just going to pass it through this hole like this. And when you pass it through and you have this looking like this, you just want to go ahead and leave this at the corner and work on the other pieces. So now the second piece I'm going to be working on is this one. So for this one, I'm just equally going to turn it inside out. I'll sew on the edge, and then I'll sew together on the sides and turn it inside out. After doing so, I'll equally top stitch on it. And after I've done that, this is what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and also drop this piece aside. So for the pockets, just in case you're wondering how to get your measurements, okay, so you want to first of all study the picture and look at the point where you want your pocket to start. You do not want it to be too high, and you also do not want it to be too low. So what I did was to go 4 inches down from my waistline. Okay, so 4 inches down from my waistline, I just went ahead to leave a mark. You want to go ahead and leave a mark where you want this pocket to be. 4 inches down from my waistline, that's where my pocket is going to be starting. And then for the sides, what I just did was to come to this side of the pocket. So from this side of the pocket now, you want your pocket to start after your dart, so it can be at the side. So this is the front, okay, this is the front and this is the back. All right, so from the front side now, I want my pocket to start after my dart. Because from the picture, it will start after the dart, and if it starts after the dart, it's going to make it move to the side a bit, not to be exactly in front of your laps. So from this side now, I'm going to come in by 4.5 inches, and that is after my dart. This is my dart, and this is where 4.5 inches is. So it's just like 0.5 inches away from my dart. And from this point now, I'm just going to connect to meet this line here. So now you also want to determine where you want this one to stop. That's how wide you want your pocket to be. So for me, I'm going to use 9 inches. Okay, so you can use between 8, 9, even 10 inches, just depending on your size. So the size of a pocket actually depends on what you want. Okay, so I'm also going to go down by 4 inches at this point. And then the length here is 9 inches because that's what I used on the other side. So after I've done this now, I'm just going to go ahead and connect this way. So now I determine the size of my pocket here. I'm going to determine how long I want my pocket to be. So for this upper part, the one that's going to be closing my pocket is going to be attached to this upper part. Okay, that's this one is the one that's going to be attached to this mark here. I do hope you understand. So now I want to determine this other length of the pocket. All right, for this other length of the pocket here, it's going to still be 9 inches at the side. That's at this point. So now for the length, I'm just going to measure what I have here and I'm going to transfer it here. Then you just have to figure out the measurement that is suitable for you. So the length of mine is 9 inches. All right, 9 inches by 9 inches now is what I have for the bigger piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and transfer the marks here from what I have here. So to do that, I'm just going to come in by 1 inch below this point. Okay, there needs to be a little spacing between the cover of the pocket and the pocket. So for mine, I'm just using 1 inch for the space between the cover of the pocket and the pocket itself. So since I have this 1 inch space now here, I'm just going to mark out the 9 inches by 9 inches that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 9 inches here. I'll go ahead and mark 9 inches on this other side also. So now I'm just going to connect these points to form a square, and this is where my pocket is going to be attached to. Alright, this is where my main pocket piece is going to be attached to, and this is where the cover of the pocket is going to be attached to. So you can see that it's more on the front side than it is on the back side, because you don't want your pocket drifting too much to the back. Okay, so just make sure you're picking a suitable length. So for the pocket now, like I said, I've gone ahead to cut out this big piece. So you're going to go ahead and cut out your big piece to fit into the size of this pocket. But when you're doing so, make sure that you have enough allowance at the top to fold it inside like this. This folding in is to make the hem neat. That's the side that is going to be attached here. And then for the two sides, make sure that you have extra ½ inch of allowance all around it. So to start with now, I'm just going to go ahead and fold the top parts that I've left extra allowance for inside. I do hope you understand this step. So guys, now after sewing on this is what I have. So you're sewing on the part that is going to be at the top here, okay? So this is what I have for my pocket. You can see that it fits into the circle, and I have just a little bit of allowance to turn it all around. So the next thing I'm going to do will be to take this other longer piece. Alright, I cut one longer piece now, and it's 3 inches by width, and the length is long enough to go all around this point. Okay, so now what I'm trying to make now is the one that is going to be at the side of the cargo. So I'm trying to make you understand every piece and what it's used for. Okay, so now this one is the length that is going to go all around this cargo. So to start with, you want to just go ahead and hem in the edge like this. Okay, that's going to go to the side, and you're going to do the same for this other side. You're going to hem in the edge like this before attaching it. So guys, after hemming in, this is what I have. So I'm going to join this to the sides of this shirt, and I'll be showing you how to do this. But before I do that, I'm just going to work on the upper part of the pocket. For the upper part of the pocket, this is what I have. So the dimension that I cut out is 7 inches, and then I cut it out 10 inches wide because this one is 9 inches. So when I close up the side, it's going to come back to 9 inches. So for that now, I'm just going to join the sides. I'm going to close up the side here, and I'll do the same for the other side here. So before I do that now, I'm just going to open up the middle part of this piece. To do that, I'm just going to close up my piece like this, and then I am going to use my scissors to cut open this part like this. So you can see that I cut out just very little. So the essence of cutting this out is so that this piece that is going to be attached to it can pass through this hole. So you're going to pass it now through the right side like this. Once I pass it out to the right side like this, you can see how I am trying to balance this. Okay, so I'm going to balance this in the middle. I'm going to close it up like this. So now when I'm sewing, I'll sew on this side. I'll also sew on this side, and then I'll sew a little on this side, and then I'll close the side very well, and then I'll sew all the way down. So basically, I am going to sew all around it like this. Even though this side is not open, yes, I'm still going to sew all around this like this. So guys, now I've gone ahead to sew all round like this, and this is what I have. So this is what it looks like from inside. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead now and trim off this excess that I have here. So now I'm going to turn it to the right side. So now I've turned it to the right side. I'm just going to go ahead and top stitch this all round. I'll top stitch it all round, and I'll be top stitching it twice. And after top stitching on it, this is what I have. Okay, so you can see that I made 2 top stitches. I made the first one very close to the border of the material, and then I just made the second one not too far from it. So please just study the pattern of the stitches and go ahead and make yours like this. So this one is going to be going at the upper part here like this. So let me go ahead and show you how to do the lower part. So for the lower part, you must have your pocket already like this. So I'm going to show you how you're going to join it all the way around. Let's go ahead and do that on my machine. So for this part of your short, that's 3 inches that you've cut it out, you must have already hemmed in this part, and you must have hemmed in the upper part. So you're going to start to join it together, and you're going to be sewing on 1/2 of an inch. Okay, just make sure that you're sewing by enough to keep the both pieces together. So you're going to start this way. So now once you're getting to the border edge, which you're going to turn this way, you're going to try to take it as slowly as possible. You need to try to take it as slowly as possible, and then while doing so, you're going to be adjusting your material like this. So now watch as I do mine. So now I'm just going to start sewing slowly like this. And then when I get to the edge, I'm just going to sew, and I'm going to lift up this, and then I'm going to turn it like this. And by so doing, I have myself my edge to be very sharp. Okay, you don't want this to curve if that's not the design you are going for. So just go ahead and drop this back and keep on sewing like this. By the time you've done that, now you should have your edge looking like this. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and keep on sewing. So when you're getting to the edge again, you want to slow down, and then you're going to arrange your material again like this. And then I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to turn it again, and then I'm going to adjust it to the side, and I'll sew down. So now I'm getting to the end. You can see the joining that I have here. So please do not get confused. I just joined it because I figured out that the length of the material which I cut out to turn this piece around was not enough. So now what I'm just going to do is I'm going to fold this in like this. So I'm basically folding it now to be the exact length of the pocket. Okay, so now after folding like this, I'm just going to sew. And after I've done that, for this part I am going to top stitch on it also like this. So like after sewing on this is what I have. So you want to go ahead and turn it to the right side. Okay, so when you turn it to the right side now, you will go ahead again and top stitch on this. To top stitch on this, first of all, I'm going to trim out this part so it's not too big for me to sew on top. And then I'm just going to start top stitching like this. You want to fold your edge of your material like this, and then you're going to put it in, and you're going to begin to top stitch just like this. Alright guys, so once we have top stitched on this is what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to attach this pocket to this piece. I'm going to be attaching it this way, so I'm going to fold it like this. Okay, and once I fold it like this, I'm going to start from here to sew all round like this. It's very easy, please don't get confused. And once I get here also, I'm going to keep folding my pocket piece inside like this, and I'm going to sew right on top of it. I'll do that all around till I get to this point, and that will be basically it for this part. So guys, for this piece, I'm going to be attaching it to my pocket like this. So I'm going to be attaching it to the midpoint of my pocket. So look the way I attach it at the midpoint. So I'm just going to measure how I attach this one, and I'll do the same for that one. So for this one, I attached it 4 inches upward at the middle. Okay, so this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Okay, I attached it 4 inches upward at the middle. So at this point now, I'm going to find the midpoint of this pocket. I'm also going to measure 4 inches upward, and this is where it's going to start. So now this is the midpoint of this pocket right here. So I'm just going to attach it this way. Okay, I'll attach 2.5 inches of it. So I'm going to attach this way like this. So which means that I'm going to sew like this all round, and I'm going to stop. So guys, after attaching this is what it looks like. Now I'm just going to use the method which I've explained to attach this all round to my pocket. So guys, I've gone ahead to attach it all around just like I explained, and this is what it's looking like. So before giving this a very good press, you want to go ahead and attach the upper piece. So the upper piece which we've already worked on, you're just going to take it like this, and then you're going to place it right on top of this line that you have marked out, which is 1 inch spacing between the pockets and this one. So you're just going to place it like this, and then you're just going to go ahead and sew on it so you can have your pocket like this. And after sewing on top of it like this, I'm just going to go ahead and top stitch on it. So this is what I have. I'll just go ahead and top stitch on it, but I'll be top stitching on it twice, just like I've done to this other part. And after I've top stitched on this is what I have. So I'm just going to go ahead now and give this a very good press. So after this now, I'm gonna iron the pocket, and I'm just going to work on the hem of the shirt. So for the hem of the shirt, you want to take out the piece that you've cut out earlier, that's 3 inches by width, that fits directly into the length of this part here. So from the back now, you are going to start sewing from the back. So you're going to place the front side of this to the back of this. You're going to sew all the way down like this. And after you're sewed on it, this is what you should have. So you want to go ahead and open this up now to the right side, and from the right side now, you're going to place this sewn piece here, this one here. You're going to make sure that it's resting on this side of the shirt. So then you're going to top stitch on it all the way down. So what I mean is, make sure that this part that's here is resting on the short parts while you top stitch. So just go ahead and sew all the way down to the end. And after I've done so now, I have this part of my material very relaxed. So now this is what it looks like from the front after I've top stitched, and this is what it looks like from the back after top stitching. So now once you've gotten to this point, you just want to go ahead now and lay this flat this way. Okay, so once you lay this flat this way, you just want to fold in at least half of an inch like this. So once you fold in half of an inch like this, you should have your edge looking like this. You're going to fold in half of an inch all the way down. And after I've done that, I'm just going to go ahead and top stitch right on top of it. And after top stitching on it, this is what I have, so you can see what it is looking like. Okay, so now this is what I have for one side of my shirt, and this is what I have for the second side of my shirt. So since you've gone ahead to work on your pockets, now you just want to go ahead and join the crotch line together. For the crotch line, the front part is going to have a zipper, so I'm just going to join my back side first. So this is my back crotch line. Make sure you know what part is your back, what part is your front. Okay, so for my back crotch line now, I'm just going to join on it by half of an inch. So guys, now I've gone ahead to join on my back piece. So I just use my bias to secure it this way. So you can either weave it, or if you want to do yours like mine, you can go ahead and do so. I just did this so it can be very strong. Alright, so now this is what it looks like from the front. Alright, so now I'm just going to go ahead and work on the zipper flyer of the front. For my zipper flyer, I have just 2 pieces here. So I went ahead to pick a longer zip because I could not find a zip that matched into the color of my shorts in the length that I want it to be. So I'm just going to be using this zip, and I'm going to cut it where necessary. Okay, so for this zip now, I'm going to use at least 8 inches out of it. So I'm going to head to mark where 8 inches is. So the latter part of the video, I'll be cutting out the remaining part of the zip after fixing it. Okay, so I have my 2 pieces here. So this piece now, just go ahead and cut it out as 2 inches by width, and then the length here I have is 9 inches. Okay, while this one here, the length I have is also 9 inches, but then here I have 4 inches, and down here I have 3 inches. So just go ahead and shape out your material to be like this, and let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is to take this piece here, and then you are going to fold it into 2. You're going to be folding it on the right side into 2, and then you're just going to sew them together to hold it in place. Then you keep this aside. So now you're going to take your short, and you're going to start with this side here. So for this side here, I am just going to open this up, okay, and then I'm going to take my piece here. So I'm going to place it right on top of this one. Okay, I'm going to be sewing not more than half of an inch. Okay, you can sew on 0.5 or less. So I'm just going to leave a mark where I'm going to be sewing on this. So please don't let your zipper follow this curve. Okay, so your zipper should be stopping at where you have this curve that's about to start. All right, so I'm just going to take my piece now, and I'm going to place it right on top of it, and I'm going to be sewing on this line. So guys, now that I've gone ahead to join it together, I'm just going to open this up now, and I'm going to top stitch on it. I'll be top stitching on it from this point all the way to this point. And after top stitching on it, this is what I have. So I'm going to take my zipper now, and I'm going to place it this way. Okay, so placing it this way now, I'm just going to sew directly on the edge of this side. So guys, after sewing on my zipper, this is what I have. Okay, so I'm just going to take this other piece which I cut out earlier, and like I said, I've sewn the sides together, and this is what it's looking like. So I'm going to take it now, and I'm going to place it directly on top of the zipper like this. Now that I've placed directly on the zipper, I'll just open this up, and I'll hold it this way. So what I'm going to do now is to sew from this point of the zipper to this point of the zipper to join the two pieces together. Alright guys, so now that I've sewn on it like this, that's what it's looking like. My zipper is now attached to this other piece, so I'm just going to open this up like this, and then I'm going to take my other piece like this. So I'm just going to trim off the rough edges. So you can go ahead and weave this before sewing it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold this edge like this, and I'm going to sew it directly on top of my zipper like this. I do hope you understand. So I'm going to sew all the way to this point. Now I'm going to join it together. All right, so guys, after I've joined it together, you can see what it's looking like. Okay, so now what I'm just going to do at this point now is to finally cut the zipper right here. All right, now that I've cut the zipper, this is what it's looking like. I'm going to turn it over to the back. Once I turn it over to the back now, all I have to do is to take my two pieces together like this, and once I have them together like this, I am going to sew and complete the crotch line. Okay, so now I'm going to sew from this point of my zipper, and I'm going to sew all the way down to complete this. So guys, after you made your zip this way, the next thing I'm going to do is to impute the line that's always on a zipper, just like the one you see on your clothings. Please take a look at them. So for that, you just want to go at least 1 inch away from the starting point, and then you're just going to trace your line which you are going to sew down on. So just like this line is now, I'm going to go ahead and sew on it, and after I sew on it, I'm going to close up this other part of the short. But please note that when you're sewing on it, just make sure to move this other piece away so you do not mistakenly close it. Okay, so open your zipper up before doing this, and then just go ahead and sew on it. Hey guys, so now I'm gonna head to sew on it so you can see what the line looks like, and I also went ahead to close up the down part of the trouser. So this is what the zipper looks like. Just so you don't close your zipper, like I was saying, make sure to move it away when you're sewing this side. So when I go back to this side, I just put it back in, and you can see that it has a little stitch on it, which is just holding it together so it doesn't fly around. Okay, so I do hope you understand what's going on here. Alright guys, for my waistband, I'm gonna head to prepare belt hooks. I have about 7 here, okay? Also gonna head to cut out my waistband. So the width of this material here is 4 inches, and the length, just make sure you're cutting it long enough to fit into your waist. So I'm going to start with the belt holes, and for the belt holes now, I'm just going to start from here to sew on it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it at different points of my waist, such as the front and the side here. I'm just going to put it here. I'll put one at the side, and then I'm just going to put 3 to the back, one near the dart, the second dart, and at the middle. So after I'm gonna head to attach my belt holes, this is what it looks like. For my waistband, I'm gonna head to give it a good press. This is what it looks like. So remember that I cut out 4 inches, and then I just folded it once to be 2 inches, and then I folded this one inward again, just like this. So I'm going to start attaching my waistband now. So for that, I'm just going to open up my zipper like this. So I'm going to be attaching from this side of my waistband. Okay, I'm going to open it up this way, and I'm going to be attaching from this side of my waistband. While attaching, what I'm just going to make sure to do is that I have some allowance here, which I'm going to use to turn this inside out. So now I'm going to go ahead now and sew on this waistband. I'll hold both the waistband and my shorts together, and I'm going to sew down. I'll do this all the way around this short. So at this point now, which I have my material sticking out like this, I just want to go ahead and hold it together like this, and then I am going to open it up again like this. So what I'm trying to do now is to sew this point together. So I'm going to sew this point together, and I'll do the same thing to the other end. So once I have this like this, I'm just going to go ahead and notch out the edge like this, and then I'm going to be trimming it just a little bit. Once I do so, I will turn this piece inside out like this. I'll also be trimming out this part like this. After I've done that, this is what it should be looking like. Okay, this is what it should be looking like. If you find out that you have excess here, please make sure to cut it out so that this part of your shirt looks very, very neat. Once I've trimmed that out, I'm going to fold it inside again. And then I'm just going to, the part that I iron, I'm just going to fold it in again to look like what it's meant to. So once I fold it in like this again, this is what it's looking like. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and do the same thing to the other side. And once I have this, I'm just going to sew directly on top of the edge of my waistband. So now that I have this, I'm going to go ahead and finish up my belt loops. So for my belt loops now, all I'm going to do is to fold it inside like this. I'll trim it where necessary. Okay, I'll trim it where necessary, and like this, I'm going to fold it like this, and then I'm going to sew on top of it. I'll go ahead and do this all round. So guys, this is what my belt hole is looking like after I was done fixing it. And then I'm just going to make a buttonhole and add a button to the waist of this shirt. And this is basically what I have for this shirt. I do hope you found this tutorial very helpful. If you did, do also leave a like. Also subscribe to this channel so you can get notified whenever I upload more amazing tutorials like this one. And I'll be seeing you in my next one. Bye guys.